Fresh air.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fresh Ears from Fresh Air, recorded at Media 360 in Brighton. I'm Neil Cowling, the founder of Fresh Air. We spoke to a wide range of brand owners and delegates, including today's guest, Jennifer Carey, the head of media at Channel 4 and board chair at Freeview. This was all before Channel 4 released their brand new imagery, which we've all seen in the last week. And so while Jennifer was keeping tight-lipped about that specifically, Michaela was keen to find out how she viewed the sonic side of Channel 4.
So I'm here at Media 360 with Jennifer Carey, who is head of media at Channel 4 and also a board chair at Freeview. Thank you for joining us, Jennifer.
Hi, Michaela. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. We're here at Media 360 talking specifically about the context of how brands sound and their audio identity, particularly in how they are distinctive sonically in an increasingly crowded market. Now, I know Channel 4 has clearly thought about what you sound like in the past. You have a sonic ident, you have doubled in podcasts, or more than doubled. You've got, particularly in the news space, you already have podcasts. But I'm really interested in hearing how much your audio identity ties back to kind of your mission statement and how those two things come together as a relationship, and how what you sound like has to have that relationship back to what you do in the market.
It's a really interesting time to talk about our audio identity because we have, as you've alluded to, a classic sounds that people would associate with us. It's actually got a name. It's called 4's. That kind of classic Channel 4 ident sound. However, we have been on a bit of a brand transformation journey recently. Anyone who has logged on to the Channel 4 app, as our streaming service is now known, will see a distinctive new bright green look and feel, and they'll also hear something a bit different before they watch one of our shows. So we have a new audio that plays across our on-screen presentation and in front of our shows, where you watch them on our streaming platforms and on other platforms as well. And in terms of how that ties into our brand identity, it's something we've thought a lot about. Our brand platform is altogether different, as you'll have seen in some of our brand campaigns that we've done over the years, and that really does run through everything that we do at Channel 4 in the marketing team and beyond. So, you know, we thought about being distinctive. We thought about just setting ourselves up against the sort of slightly more classic, bombastic sounds that you might hear from other...
Bombastic is a great word, by the way. I like that a lot.
Not thinking of anyone in particular, thinking of any other streamers. So we've chosen sort of slightly different instruments, and we've still stuck to that kind of 4-note heritage, but it's just a little bit different, and hopefully that sort of reflects the sort of alternative positioning of our brand.
Exactly. I'm kind of going back to kind of your purpose was about unheard voices, challenging things, reinventing entertainment, and it feels like, I mean, Channel 4 is a different case because there are so many brands and businesses who have never considered what they sound like. They know what they look like, they know what their colour palette is, but how that comes to life in audio is something that they haven't. So it's really interesting to go back and start thinking about, as you said, what instrumentation might represent you, and what vocabulary. You use the word bombastic. What vocabulary you might use that differentiates you in the market to another brand or business. You've got a lot of long-serving talent at Channel 4 who kind of represent you, I think, as well. You hear a voice and you think Channel 4 through a lot of them. Christian Murphy, for instance. Could you pick a single voice or person, do you think, to represent Channel 4?
Oh. Well, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was, obviously we've got the sort of musicality and tones that we use to identify the brand, but we do have brand voices, not only in the talent from our programmes, but in our announcers that talk to the viewers every single day. I really think it's a USP of linear TV that we've got that direct relationship with the viewers when we're in their homes, when we're, you know, introducing the programmes, telling them what they need to be a bit careful about, telling them there's going to be, you know, something they need to be wary of, but also telling them about our programmes and our brand and, you know, other content that we know know that they're going to like, and we've got that sort of trust and assurance. So a part of my role, I actually look after our team that we call 4's. And they're our kind of in-house voiceover team who provide the continuity announcements, but increasingly provide voiceovers for our 4's Studio digital content that lives on different platforms. And we really make sure that those voices are reflective of the UK and the nation at large. A lot of thought goes into making sure we've got, classically continuity was very much that kind of RP, BBC.
Yes, absolutely so.
Sound. And I think if you listen to the voices on Channel 4, they definitely do sound kind of altogether different to what you would hear on other channels. And we've definitely been at the forefront of that and kind of bringing different voices, whether that's regionality or from different backgrounds and experiences. We have a apprentice scheme. We've got one of our announcers at the moment who's very, very new to TV, and we're giving her that opportunity to kind of talk to the nation live on Channel 4. Our continuity announcements on Channel 4 in peak are live, so anything could happen. And I just think that they are the voices of the channel in the same status as our presenters, so whether that's Krishnan or Kevin MacLeod or...
It's really interesting because you're right, there's a collective both in terms of celebrity talent who we know, but also voices that represent the viewers and make them feel that they're represented on screen as well. With that kind of stable of voices, all of whom are deliberately different, I guess, to each other as well, where's the common ground? Do you have kind of a brand Bible that helps people understand what language and vocabulary that they ought to collectively use in their own distinctive voices?
We think a lot about our tone of voice, and that's something that, we'll sometimes work with brands or even sort of internal comms, and they'll come to us and say, like, can you make this sound a bit more Channel 4? Here's a training video that we have to do for everybody.
Yeah.
And, our teams, both in 4 Creative and in 4 Voice, will know sort of the language to use. So we've kind of codified it in as much as we can, but there is something a bit sort of unquantifiable about that Channel 4-ness. We call it 4-ness internally. So, the teams will know how to make something sound Channel 4, but also to be able to flex depending on the content. We have such a range. You could be introducing Hollyoaks, and then you could be telling people that the Queen has passed away, which actually happened during Hollyoaks.
And you still need to sound like Channel 4 in all of those spaces. Has kind of your move to Leeds from London had any impact on how you sound?
Well, we're in Leeds.
Yeah.
We're also in Manchester. We're in Glasgow. We're in Bristol.
Yeah.
So as part of our Nations and Regions programme, we do have hubs all across the UK. I think in terms of our on-air voices, we always made sure that we were sort of representative of the UK. So I don't think the move to Leeds specifically has had an impact on that, but it certainly had an impact on the talent that are kind of working behind the scenes. We've got a really strong footprint in Leeds now, and lots of sort of young, fresh talent working in teams like our 4's Studio team there. So it's definitely had an impact in the kind of who's producing that content, especially for a younger audience. Yeah.
And what about different times of the day? Again, would your style flex between morning and afternoon and evening after the watershed? Does that have any impact, you think, on?
There's definitely more you can get away with after the watershed. There's certainly a cheeky tone of voice that can come out. It depends. We've got a suite of channels as well. So if you're listening to E4, you can imagine that you're going to get a slightly cheekier, more youthful tone of voice. But similarly on Channel 4, if you're introducing Naked Attraction, for example, at 10 o'clock, you'll have a slightly different take than if you're talking about what's coming up on Channel 4 News at 7.
Absolutely.
So it's time of day, but it's also very content driven, but the schedule kind of reflects that.
And if you were a radio station or a podcast, what do you think Channel 4 would be? Is there anything that exists, or do you still need to break new ground?
I think that we would be, if we were a podcast, we would be a Channel 4 podcast, and similarly in the audio space, I think we're a media brand. We have a very distinctive mission to create change through entertainment and a very distinctive tone of voice. So I don't think I could compare us to anybody else.
I'm going slightly off piste here, but I'm genuinely interested in the relationship between when you have content that's sponsored by a brand, so brought to you by car company or
Yes.
food company or whatever it is. What sort of conversations do you have to make sure that both Channel 4 and that brand are represented in a piece of content that needs to work for both of you? Do they have free rein on what those kind of idents or bits around the content,
So the
the
sponsorship
furniture? Yeah.
idents. It's not an area I work closely with, so I don't want to speak for my colleagues in the sponsorship and partnerships team, but I do know that people come to us to be aligned with our content and our tone of voice. So I would imagine that the idents they produce for Channel 4 would be distinctive in relation to idents that you might see on other channels.
Absolutely, because it feels that way. It feels like they're coming to be in the halo effect of Channel 4 by being on your...
And we do run sort of special breaks with our advertisers, whether that's sort of Lego Batman coming in and taking over, and that's when sort of the 4's team would also get involved to introduce that. So we definitely work closely with our commercial partners to make sure that everything sounds like it's coming from Channel 4.
Yeah, absolutely, with that extra layer of Channel 4 creativity over the top. Have you ever considered extending your content into companion podcasts? Is that something that you would consider?
I think we would never say never when it comes to looking at new media, especially somewhere like audio, where we know that there's our kind of young target audience are spending an increasing number of time. So from a marketing perspective...
Because of you're the lowest skewing public service channel in the UK.
Yes. So from a marketing perspective, we are definitely reaching out into audio to talk to our audience. So, whether that's radio stations or digital audio, there's a great alignment there from a content perspective with what podcasts and audio content provides. So we are definitely, from a marketing point of view, sort of reaching our audience in those spaces. From a content point of view, again, not my area, but I would say, never say never.
Okay, so to end, I'm going to circle back to where I started, which is this idea of brands needing to stand out in every regard that they can, including sonically in an increasingly crowded market. So how do you... There might be the latest programme, Love at First Sight Australia, for example. How do you know that your viewers, when they're watching content across multiple platforms, know that that is your content and not ITVX's, for example?
Well, that was a really key, that kind of brand attribution was a really key consideration in our kind of aligning behind a single master brand of Channel 4. And with that comes a very, very distinctive look and feel in our new bright green clothes, but also sonically. I mentioned earlier our kind of new sound that you'll hear before you watch all of our content on the Channel 4 streaming platform. And that's really important for us to be distinctive and for our audiences to recognise that that content is coming from Channel 4, whether they're seeing it on their social feeds or when they're seeing it on their connected TV or on their smartphone or tablet.
So you've almost got that kind of brand stamp at the start. You can't watch the content without understanding that it's Channel 4. It was brought to you by Channel 4.
Exactly. And also we're commercial broadcasters, so we've got ad breaks. That's another opportunity for us to really kind of be distinctive in terms of our brand identity with the opticals. If you see a promo for another programme, it's going to have a very, very distinctive Channel 4 look and feel and design.
Thanks again to Jennifer Carey, Head of Media at Channel 4, for sitting down with us at Media 360. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our Media 360 episodes of Fresh Ears. Please do listen back to some of the others, including conversations with Sky, Yorkshire Tea and Rightmove. And if you'd like to find out about creating a podcast for your brand, you can find us at freshairproduction.co.uk. In the meantime, I'm Neil Cowling. Thank you very much for listening and goodbye.
Fresh air.